Right place, wrong time. That was Football Manager creators in 2024 and Giovanni Reyna when he got a fresh start at Borussia Monchengladbach with me in charge. Borussia Monchengladbach are bad, shockingly bad. In 2020, they earned a Champions League place, but as of late October 2025, they're bottom of the Bundesliga. That's why we reverted to the start of the season and appointed Chroose as manager. He'll make sure Gladbach can find some joy again, if he can navigate his way through these menus. Let's see, what is happening here? Giovanni Reyna is one of the most recognizable names on the squad, being a wonder kid who many had high hopes for in real life and in Football Manager. Unlike the latter, a player's development isn't a consistent upward trajectory until they reach their full potential. It's become apparent that not everybody is an Mbappe or Haaland, let alone Lamine Yamal. Gio Reyna, though, seemed to be at the right place at the right time. With Borussia Dortmund, he'd earned 50 Bundesliga appearances before turning 20. Internationally, he looked as he'd become a star when the USA co-hosted the 2026 World Cup. Everything was on the up. But what seemed like the right place at the right time didn't stay that way. Injuries plagued his development at Dortmund, off-field issues with the USA coach led to an odd drama between Greg Berhalter and Reyna's family, plus a loan to Nottingham Forest did not work out at all. Recently, he moved to Gladbach for $7 million in hopes to reignite his career. Unfortunately for him, I used the 4-2-2, which doesn't include his strongest position. It's quite simple. Press a lot, pass into space, and get the ball to our target forward. Tabakovic with the opener, Fabio Chiarodia, who I will call the chair, with the second, and the man from Japan, Shuto Machino, grabbed a third to provide a dominant debut win. Tactics on FM26 now feature in-possession roles and out-of-possession roles. It's a lot to get your head around and see what works and what doesn't. A 4-2-2 away at Stuttgart may not be the plan, especially with a fairly young back line. We've mentioned the chair, and at fullback, we got Reyna's friend, Joe Scally. On the other side, there are two Germans. Luca Netz, who like Reyna was expected to be a brilliant player by now. Instead, he has been taken over by Lukas Ulrich. Lukas will earn more starts, and Luca will be loaned out and leave on a free at the end of his contract. There are veterans such as goalkeeper Moritz Nicolas and center back Nico Elvedi, who have been at the club for ages. But they were at fault for Stuttgart's winning goal. Hosting Werder Bremen next saw us revert that loss. Our French winger Honorat will be important as he opened the encounter, as with the left inside forward Robin Hack, who I call the Hackman, Gene Hackman.
I'm shocked.
He'd have a memorable match with 2 goals and an assist to defeat Bremen. Leverkusen afterwards, I thought that a similar lineup would maintain the output. Instead, we got a 90-minute bore fest. I'm sure our hardworking midfielders helped defensively. That would be the energy rabbit of Rocco Reitz and the slow playmaker of Kevin Stuger. But our offensive strategy got thrown out the window when Shuto Machino received an injury which forced Grant Ranos on. And I'm sorry, this guy isn't good enough. Even my assistant thinks so. With no offensive strategy, the game ended scoreless, is what I expected. But in added time, we conceded to lose. Machino's injury would see him out for 6 to 8 weeks. This ruins our system. There are players that can play striker, but they aren't good enough, comfortable in that role, or are injured like with Tim Kleindienst, which means small service. Small service he can't provide until December. The wheels didn't fall apart straight away as we went 4 without a loss, only 1 win. Thanks to Tabakovic scoring in each fixture, we at least remained competitive. But what happens when he dries up? That, along with tactical confusion from the manager and a matchup with Bayern Munich. For the real Der Klassiker, we used a cautious 4-3-3 in an attempt to frustrate the Bavarians, and it worked. Clearly, they weren't up for it after a PSG loss in midweek, as their offensive output an hour in had 3 shots. Not on target, just shots. Unfortunately, they have individual talent to rival anyone, and Michael Olise danced by 2 of my players to find the opener. We had to push up a little, and minutes later, we earned a free kick outside of their box. A delivery from Stuger would then find Elvedi at the far post for the equalizer. A draw would suffice. Unfortunately, I got greedy, and my sins to attack Bayern cost us with Anton Heinz scoring a 95th minute winner. This guy isn't even a good footballer. What is he doing here? That loss brought out the floodgates. 3 losses in the next 4 saw us sink down the table and suffer an embarrassing elimination in the DFB Pokal to Leverkusen. In December though, our injured strikers returned for a 0-0 draw to Champions League contenders Mainz. Yeah, the Bundesliga is kind of weird. And don't get me started on the World Cup later in the save. Versus Wolfsburg, I thought there had to be some way to make Gio Reyna work in this team. So I created this. Might be why we lost some of these games. Regardless, I felt that an attacking midfielder would unlock the attack, especially with the strikers needing to gain match sharpness. And in the 4th minute, he had a chance to deliver a free kick into the box. Gio Reyna from the free kick hasn't done much this season. I'm just gonna plug my stream, twitch.tv/thecrew, and the Chroo live on YouTube. Later on, Machino came off the bench to be our joker to rescue a draw. Reyna would be dropped for his return to Signal Iduna Park. It's our last match before the winter break, marking the midway point of the season, although technically the Hinrunde isn't complete until January. Nevertheless, away from home, we used the Bayern formation to be defensively resolute. Unlike in that game, we should have gone up 1-0. Kleindienst got sent in behind. I've waited months for this man, and this is what he has to show? Compared to Bayern, Dortmund found more chances, but at the half, it remained scoreless. A great defensive performance, wasted less than 30 seconds into the second. We remained behind until I decided to make changes with 20 to go. Revert to the 4-3-2. That includes the sub of Gio Reyna as the left inside forward. And in the 84th minute, got rights. Tabakovic, not a good ball, but Reyna wins it. Reyna scores against his forward team. A draw rescued. While it means we remain winless for 10 matches, players are beginning to return, and some tactical ideas have been found. With help from a red card, we started the new year positively as Augsburg were taken down thanks to Kleindienst's brace. It's not a smooth road though, as the overperforming Hoffenheim humbled us. Our away games impossible for us to win. Our only one is against St. Pauli, and their red card helped with that. Hamburg though had more at stake than 3 points, as both of us battled for Marco Reus's signature. Rumors began to spread that this result would determine who Marco signed for. Marco Reus has signed for Borussia Monchengladbach. What a day. Our second away victory of the season and the return of a fan favorite. Marco is old and losing his ability to move, but with several young attackers called up from the academy, who better to learn from? We wrapped up January with a win over Stuttgart, lost to the overperforming Werder Bremen, and loaned in Archie Gray. In addition, I tried to get rid of the 4 million man Neuhaus on loan. He said no. Fair enough. With 14 matches to go, we were still in a rough spot. But if we have a good Rückrunde, Europe is attainable. Beginning with Leverkusen, beginning with Frankfurt, a European competitor, we started a 20-year-old goalkeeper from Luxembourg. Moritz Nicolas received a 2-week injury, and I sold our backup in January. That gave the then 19-year-old a start versus Bremen, where despite 2 conceded, he made 11 saves. A clean sheet followed with Leverkusen, so I decided to continue his momentum at Frankfurt. Unfortunately, Mario Götze won a penalty, but Jonathan Burkhardt got stopped by TPC. The guy looked like Gordon Banks reincarnated. In the second half, however, the team in front let him down, as Frankfurt found 2 before the hour mark. Frankfurt looked to extend their point total over us to 7, until Gunnar entered the pitch. The Argentine youth international born in Germany, who's also Turkish, barely turned 18, yet I gave him a sub appearance as the left inside forward. Cross in, tipped away. Gunnar! Gunnar! Ulrich is going to whip it in. Who can he find? No one. But it goes right to the Gooner. Gooner cannot beat his man. But he wins it back. Gooner. Gooner. A brace for the Gooner. From youngest ever Gladbach goal scorer to oldest, Marco Reus's strike against Freiburg gave him that honor along with a victory. We then turned it into an undefeated February with a 2-0 victory over Union Berlin. The next opponent is Bayern away from home, and you know how that goes. Conceding prior and after halftime is a perfect plan for a loss. Old man Reus still has it, as in a false 9 role versus St. Pauli, he assisted Kleindienst for the sole strike. That placed us in a European spot, which is top 7 in the table. Before the March international break, we had the Rhine derby with Köln. They had to worry about relegation, but in a derby, form means nothing. In contrast to the reverse fixture, this seemed to be in our favor, as Gio Reyna found his first goal since January. To be fair to him, he doesn't play a lot. He also doesn't deserve to play that much with his performances, but he looked to be a derby hero today. Köln only had 1 shot at the half, and my hope was that they would get out of their shell and expose themselves. Then comes my naivety. I thought I could sub out our wingers for Gunnar and an even younger teenager in Wael Moya. Unlike Gunnar, he hasn't had any contributions, though not through his own fault. Yet bringing both of them on in a hostile derby atmosphere may have swung the momentum. 3 minutes after the sub, Köln would equalize thanks to Marius Butler. Then in the 89th minute, they would find the winner. Once the Bundesliga resumed from the international break, we would earn a narrow victory over Heidenheim, but lose to Leipzig the following weekend. 5 fixtures remain, with us in 9th, 2 points from the final European spot. In those matches, we face second place Mainz. Yes, Mainz and Bremen will both be in the Champions League. Then there's Wolfsburg, Dortmund at home, Augsburg away, and Hoffenheim to end the season. This run won't be easy, although the highest ranked team was, as we scored twice in the first half hour and allowed 2 shots all game to win and make the European race tight. Now tied for 6th, the gap to 10th is minimal. Wolfsburg weren't near us though, as they were in 17th and could be relegated. They showed desperation for a result, as in the 2nd minute, a deflected cross went straight to Mohamed Amoura. In the early parts, our right side got cooked, but it settled down, and before the break, Hackman took advantage of Grabar's poor parry for the equalizer. Wolfsburg would display their relegation form in the second half by conceding a penalty converted by Kleindienst. They soon would be relegated, while we continued our chase for Europe with Dortmund next. It's been a catastrophic season for BVB, as is tradition every handful of years. They sacked Niko Kovac earlier in the campaign and hired Oliver Glasner, who brought them back into a respectable position. Tied on points with them, how would the Borussia battle fare? We got movement here. Hack receives it down the left. It's a little slow on it. Gets it back to Ulrich, who whips the ball in, back post, and Honorat takes advantage of a mistake as Gladbach take the lead. Who made the mistake? Oh, he just blocked the shot, then just got out of the way. Oh, ball in. Elvedi! 5 minutes in, it's 2-0 Gladbach. What a ball. Ulrich down the left. Ulrich. Beats a man. Ulrich keeps going. It's 3-0. The Hackman. Not even 10 minutes into the game, and Gladbach are 3-0 up over Dortmund. Statement made. With 2 to play, Borussia Monchengladbach were 4 points clear of a European spot and 5 points ahead of our next opponents, Augsburg. Only a complete disaster could see us miss out on continental football, and we are 3-0 down. We managed to salvage our goal difference with 2 late goals, including one from Gio Reyna, but it wasn't enough. Here's how it looks. We're still in 5th on goal difference. 6th and 7th place Frankfurt and Stuttgart face each other. Due to the tiebreaker being goal difference, neither Dortmund nor Hoffenheim could pass us. We played the latter, a team that hadn't won for 16 straight matches, which included a loss to Darmstadt in the DFB Pokal. So even with a loss, which based on form is impossible, we won't finish below 7th. We lost to Hoffenheim. In another universe, this would be a massive ball job. Luckily, we finished in 6th, and thanks to Bayern Munich, we qualified for the Europa League. A season of returns, redemption, and why does everyone want to leave? Chair, I played you every single game, and this is how you repay me? Are you kidding me, Stuttgart? As captain, this is how you want to end things? Neuhaus? Fair enough, I didn't play you. At least Urena earned some redemption. Or not. Marco Reus is a player I admire and respect. And no, it's not because of my history with winning trophies in FM. I watched a lot of Dortmund in the 2010s, and no matter the struggle BVB went through, whether losing players, end of eras, or coaches who were fool's gold, Marco Reus stayed with them and provided countless great performances. The same can't be said with my players. I use the chair every single minute, and he goes, I can do better than a Europa League club. You don't think I can replace your ass with a Greek man who's 5 times the man you are? Konstantinos Kouliarakis looks incredible, and his cost is alone with a mandatory fee of 22 million. Thank you, relegated Wolfsburg. If you messed this up, man. No! Some say they got relegated for a reason. He also got lost on Leipzig's winner in our opener. We can't rely on a 20-year-old keeper all season with Maurice Nicolas's request to leave. So we loaned Aaron Ramsdale.
To concentrate on a game of football for 90 minutes. I'm finished, I can't do it.
Why didn't somebody send me this clip sooner? To be fair, his debut on match day 3 would be a sight to behold. He wasn't the only debutant though. Another loan with a 5 million option to buy, Ryan Aït-Nouri. I don't know what he did to piss off Pep. Regardless, when he joined, there seemed to be a bond between him and Marco Chroose, as Chroose proclaimed they were close friends, if not best friends.
My best friend!
Ryan seemed weirded out, but our bond quickly grew until he got injured on his debut. After Ulrich subbed in, his corner delivery led to a penalty. Let me introduce you to Kevin Dix. He's not new, but mentioning him and Gunnar in one campaign would be too much power.
I can't touch that power level.
Which is why Gunnar is playing for the second team in the 3rd division. It's also fine for his development. Other new faces arrived, such as Nathan the Cat, who got bought for 950k, and the return of Archie Gray for a transfer record that can rise to 50 million. However, we can't forget about last season's failure Gio Reyna, who grabbed our second. This man has thought he hit rock bottom many times, only to realize it can get deeper. With our switch to a narrow formation that looks like a 5-a-side in the top, he could earn more starts. A 2-0 lead should be safe, but we know how football works. Before the ref could blow his whistle for halftime, Stuttgart went down the pitch to get within 1. Early into the second, Stuttgart looked strong, yet Ramsdale kept us up, and a minute later, the Hackman grabbed our 3rd. Despite Demirovic closing the gap and staring down Aaron, we survived. If we include our victory over Hanover, our start to the season is solid. Now the tough part arrives. Can we survive the Bundesliga and European football? At an initial glance, no. Augsburg made our attack look toothless with a loss at home. Then, my Europa League debut against Dutch Cup winners Excelsior, who have never been in Europe themselves. Why is the light reflecting on the pitch? Kleindienst to Scali. In behind it, Kleindienst. Gunnar, what a stop by Van Gazel. Okay, he did play in Europe. Instead of Gunnar scoring his first European goal, it would be Excelsior via Sanch Fernandes. Kleindienst rescued a draw, but the misery compounded at Frankfurt. What seemed to be a tense encounter led to the worst loss in our managerial career. 4-0 as Frankfurt looked unstoppable. Then a draw to Rennes continued our winless run. Maybe my tactic needed adjustments. The idea is for my center mids to play wider and make runs forward along with a second striker. The target forward would drop deeper to allow these runners to have space to move into, and the fullbacks would have a lot of room to stay wide. The problem may have been some of the instructions, as well as my out of possession formation. It's a 4-1-4-1. However, instead of the center mid staying in the middle, I had them move out wide and the cams move into those central roles. I thought they could deal with wingers better with their work rate and defensive ability. Unfortunately, my cams don't have the work rate and teamwork to accomplish their tasks. So I changed the out of possession to what you'd expect. Offensively, I decided the right center mid and left attacking mid would play wide and make runs forward, while the other would have their natural freedom of movement and make runs forward. Would those changes work? Nothing from the cross, and Jens Kastrup, he wins Gucci goal of the month. For him, we will wear the headband for the rest of the match. Free kick taker, he can score this. Royce! Jens Kastrup, I am sorry, you lose Gucci goal of the month to Marco Reus. Goal, Shuto Machino getting his second of the season. Outside the box, takes a touch. I am sorry, Marco Reus. You've lost out for the Gucci goal of the month to Shuto Machino. What a strike. 3 wonder goals from Gladbach today. Then I decided to use a 4-3-3 away at Cologne and drew 1-1. Back to the narrow system against St. Pauli, we looked incredible with 5 scored in the first half in a 6-3 victory. Fiorentina in the Europa League, give us that win, shooting machine Shuto Machino. 2 Bundesliga wins followed as we were placed in 3rd, 3 points from the top. However, were we actually that good? XG, known as expected goals, is either the most important or most overrated stat depending on who you ask. Still, it does give you an idea if you create chances in dangerous areas. In our victories over Braunschweig and St. Pauli, we unsurprisingly exceeded it, but our opponents had similar numbers to us. The Fiorentina and Hoffenheim wins? We were drawing and losing before they had a player sent off, which led to our victories. Finally, Union Berlin, Ten Hag is their manager. Maybe I'm overreacting. Oh, the DFB Pokal? We lost to 2nd division side Bochum on pens. They ended up in the final. Consecutive away losses to Salzburg and an inconsistent Borussia Dortmund made my claims look factual. Marco Reus's career at Borussia Dortmund spanned for 12 years. 12 years at his home club. That involved rejecting offers from top teams who could offer higher wages. Even in times of crisis, Marco stayed. For Gio Reyna, he might have stayed too long. I partly joke, but when Marco joined LA Galaxy, he said in an interview about Gio, I played in his position, so it was difficult for the coach and for him as well. But of course, I was hoping when I was gone, he'd get the chance to play more. Nope. Marco occupied a wider role until around 2017, where he slotted through the middle more often. With both of them reunited at Gladbach, what if we played both of them at the same time? At home versus Freiburg, Marco would assist the opener, and Gio Reyna went on to have a perfect match with 2 goals and an assist in a 4-1 victory. On the pitch together, these two's combined average ratings were 6.95, which was inflated by the last match. However, the two got numbers for the rest of the Hinrunde. Marco had the most assists in the Bundesliga with 9, and Reyna had 7 goals and 2 assists. That brought mixed results in the Bundesliga and Europa. We were still in reach of a Champions League position, while the Europa League would see us finish outside the top 8. That's when the announcement was made. Marco Reus will retire at the end of the campaign. A player of his caliber should have more trophies in his cabinet. That's the sacrifice you make for loyalty. Francesco Totti at certain Serie A clubs would have won more than 2 Coppa Italias and a single Scudetto. Steven Gerrard under Mourinho at Chelsea or Madrid would have greater success than during Liverpool's banter era, or that moment. Still, at least those 2 guys won a league title, a European trophy, and or a World Cup. Reus never earned those. Injured in the final friendly before the World Cup, lost the 2013 Champions League final, And then there's the Bundesliga. The end of the 2022-23 season was painful. Yeah, Marco won a few DFB Pokals, but that Bundesliga finish where they lost the title on goal difference because they couldn't get the job done is tough to watch. It felt like someone got the bad ending in a video game, except this was real.
This hurts. This really, really hurts.
Well, there's not much we can do about that.
I'm Gladbach manager. We're not catching up to Bayern. What I want to do is win the Europa League. Yeah, it's not the epitome of Europe, but I think it'd be a nice send-off. It might not be possible if I can't even defeat Hannover. In January, we began to gather wins. Champions League failures of Werder Bremen were smoked 5-1. Slightly better RB Leipzig were defeated as well. Plus, our fellow Europa League competitor Stuttgart. Oh, what a missed header! Shooter Machino! The shooting machine scores! We're beaten again. With January's window wrapping up, I wanted to improve my team. Unfortunately, I spent most of our money. Cheers, Archie Gray. When it comes to sales, I'm worse than Arsenal. That saw us spend 100 grand over our wage budget. With no luck in earning a January income, I managed to loan a Chelsea striker.
Nicolas Jackson.
No, Emmanuel Emeka. He scored 14 for Strasbourg previously, so he could be decent for us. Outside of that, no luck. With an absolute banger from Christian Jakic, Augsburg defeated us to begin January. That led to the Europa playoff round versus Young Boys. To those that don't know the format, once the league table stage is complete, the top 8 move to the round of 16, while the next ranked 16 teams fight it out in a playoff round to earn their place. Thanks to a 16th place finish, we faced Young Boys, a side we defeated earlier in the campaign. Goals from Machino and Kastrup aided in our victory. No, I'm not going to make that joke. This is our first step to our Europa League dreaming run. Despite needing to take this competition seriously, I rotated my team. We had Frankfurt on the weekend, and that earlier 4-0 result had me scared. Since Young Boys weren't from a big league, I thought I could risk it and go full strength at home. In the first half, we had a lot of shots, yet our accuracy was like a stormtrooper in LEGO Star Wars, who had their mask turned around. At the start of the second half, Alvin Sanch got sent in behind, and with all this space, he gave Young Boys the lead. Don't worry, after the hour mark, 4 subs were made with 3 involved for the equalizer. We later pursued a winner near the 90th minute as Ait Nouri receives it and attempts a pass, but it ricochets off the defender and post. Possession immediately heads the other way, and as Young Boys retained possession in the final third, their attempt at a cross got headed away, and the ball returned to us, until Virginius steals it off Reina. Young Boys would then pull off a sequence of passes that would have Pep saying, "Oh, that was so good, more than you can believe," as Alvin Sanch slots in the first leg winner. I'll be honest, even with that against me, that's a special goal. On the weekend, we defeated Frankfurt with ease and set out to turn this deficit around to continue my dream for Marco Reus. Scully's cross to Kleindienst leveled the tie within 10 minutes, yet Young Boys maintained a threat. Tied on aggregate, it remained that way all the way to extra time. This remained closer than I expected. In spite of our efforts, the guys couldn't take the aggregate lead. Young Boys greater than Frankfurt. Their keeper had an incredible match, as extra time saw nothing past him, ending with 16 saves. That means penalties. They scored the first pen in leggy fashion. Gladbach are playing for Marco Reus's, well, not Marco Reus's dream, my Marco Reus dream. I want Reus to lift the Europa League. Dick starts out well. He was too omnipotent and made himself miss. Ooh, Ristevski hits the post. Wasn't Stuger my first pen? Oh no, I subbed Stuger off, didn't I? Vecino though, hits the bar himself. Oh my gosh, no. Rounds 3 and 4 saw both sides score their pens. Can we prevent them from having the advantage? No. That was the slowest pen ever. Come on, Ramsdale. Gio Reyna set to step up to keep us alive in the game. And he does. Okay. Andrews for Young Boys. Both teams have missed one pen, both hitting the woodwork. Andrews, though, Sends Ramsdale the wrong way. Keep us alive in the game. He smashes it. The Virgin Vinicius Virginius slotted his in round 6. Alright. Gray, Archie Gray. What just happened? I would be devastated right now, but I am in awe. Well, my Marco Reus dream is dead. A massive upset that saw the 50 million euro man stopped by Superman. And next season is joining Whether we get into the Champions League or not doesn't really matter to me anymore. Marco is retiring, so I guess I'll play Reina and some teenagers for the remainder of the campaign. Oh, and my best friend. 12 match days later, and that went surprisingly well. Champions League for Gladbach, Marco Reus received a standing ovation in his final match, and Giovanni Reina had the best season of his career. Not called up to the USA. Okay, seriously, Gio. What did you do to Maurizio to piss him off? Nico Pass looks incredible. Pass, shoot, dribble. He can do it all. The magic he's shown at Como is mesmerizing. If only I could get a player like him. Oh, you'd be interested in Gladbach? Well, the wage is expensive, but for you, it'd be worth it. That price tag though. With a year left on his deal and no interest in him, I have to act, especially with a large budget. Not large enough to buy him outright, unless, how about a loan? With an option to buy. There are a lot of loan clauses that if met would result in 100 million fee, but if that happens, we'd be on top of the world. Wait, didn't Real Madrid have a buyback clause?
Whatever.
This loaned mandatory buy option proved to be useful. Welcome from Inter, Francesco Pio Esposito. With Kleindine sold to Leeds for 30 million, I thought he'd be good. Finally, the last point under triangle is Alvaro Montoro. Cheaper in comparison, if he can develop a little more, we may have a trio that could challenge Bayern. In the opener versus Dortmund, it seemed that our transfers had settled, with football clean as my toilet. It's clean, but sometimes it gets in. Still, the beauty of our triangle remained sharp, as Dortmund's Anton elbowed our guy in the face and received his marching orders. Our creativity continued in the second half, as our one-touch passes scorched BVB's defense. Yet, we couldn't score until the 64th minute, where this wayward shot or pass led to a push on Nico Pass, which the ref ruled worthy of a penalty. Nico steps up and the keeper catches it. This wouldn't be our day, as their keeper Ramai had the match of a lifetime. With a couple sales, we funded a few other transfers. Dennis Zyman for a 31 million release clause, but he began the season injured. Then I loaned Beraldo to have another center back option. Lastly, just in case someone activates Archie Gray's 112 million release clause, I bought Kenneth Eichhorn from Hertha Berlin for 24 million. With a few starters from last season moving into rotational roles, I thought we had a solid team to compete with. They had the blitz, the flair, and the style. The end product? Not so much. Nearly the exact same result as their opener happened with Union Berlin, except Kevin Dix converted a penalty. Another draw followed with Hamburg, where we again played well and did not win. A subpar start to the season. After the 2026 World Cup, the international breaks changed. September's is moved and combined with October, which means we don't have the momentum of the club season stopped when the transfer window concludes. Unfortunately, if you're in a European competition, you have 6 matches in 18 days. However, unlike the previous fixtures, these went a lot better. Hamburg was the start, but 3 straight narrow victories followed. Moya found the winner versus Leverkusen, Nico finally showed up in her Champions League debut victory, and Esposito did so too with his first and second goals in a win over Mainz. Fenerbahce would be the sole triumph with an advantage greater than 1. Then we lost all that steam with a scoreless draw to Hanover. Returning from the international break, a surprise throw-in saw Augsburg score a late winner. This is a confusing team. Are we good or are we dog shit? On one hand, even with a narrow margin, we dominate Aston Villa and then defeat Bayern at the Allianz Arena, worthy a celebration. On the other hand, we again are eliminated in the DFB Pokal by Bundesliga 2 outfit Darmstadt 3-0. Then in the next 6 fixtures, we would only lose to Chelsea, which I prefer not to speak about. 5 victories though, which mostly were narrow. Still, these results led us to be in second, and despite drawing Hoffenheim in the next match week, Bayern lost. Now we were top of the table, although that draw had us with a man advantage, yet we conceded an 80th minute equalizer. Next up is Real Madrid. Looking at the recent results, 3-0 over Girona, 4-1 past Mallorca, they destroyed Levante 6-0, and pummeled Galatasaray 8-1. I used an interesting lineup with Jude shifted out wide for Nkunku of all players. However, the focus should have been on Endrick. He beats a defender and remains unchallenged for some reason and finds the opener. I felt this wouldn't be a good day when in the 28th minute, the shot deflected into the back of our net. The second half wouldn't be better, as Rodrigo and Endrick extended their lead, as we left the Bernabeu in pain. Stuttgart brought even more of that. Don't hit that. Oh my days. What are you doing, you idiot? As our asses got whooped 6-0. When it seemed like I could salvage our December with a 2-0 lead over Leipzig, we conceded twice in the last 20 minutes to draw and fall into 4th place. No need to worry, the new year is here, and this is the time where our form churns around in the Champions League. A 3-0 victory over Marseille, plus an away victory at the Anoeta, saw us crush Real Sociedad. Thanks in no small part to Esposito, who finally scored, we'd finish in the top 8. A huge surprise to qualify for the round of 16, and we needed that in order to fix our Bundesliga form. It's not 6-0 loss bad, but it wouldn't be ideal. An 84th minute Kaminsky winner had us lose to my former player Chair. The man betted too much on himself, yet he couldn't resist celebrating in front of me. Then another ex-player, Honorat, who plays for Union Berlin, scored a brace. Thankfully, we were competent here with enough goals to win the match. Note that none of the star transfers contributed. Borussia Dortmund defeated us again, and Hamburg matched a 1-1 result from earlier in the campaign. 20 match days through, and we were 7th. What the hell has happened to us? My rank is as low as the Champions League. Speaking of, our round of 16 encounter wouldn't occur until March, which means we have no excuse to underperform in the Bundesliga. Esposito knows he's been bad. I directly told him. Maybe the service he receives isn't sufficient with my bloated midfield tactic that sometimes works and clearly in many cases doesn't. I tried other systems to shake things up, like a basic 4-2-3-1 against Leverkusen. Here, Esposito opened the encounter within 60 seconds and grabbed a brace in the 22nd. Despite the decent lead, we would find ways to concede to give our opponents a chance to steal points. We only won this thanks to Nianzou's gift, as we figured the rest out. Esposito continued to contribute against Mainz, and the match felt under control until the 75th minute, where we failed to mark a simple give and go. Close to the 90th, we were under pressure, as a Mainz corner got cleared, just for the taker to be left open for a shot, and Zeman parried it straight to Kratemacher. The mixed results continued with a comfortable win at Hanover, seeing Nico show some of his ability with a brace, and forget all of it versus Augsburg, where like Mainz, we lost it late. Now we were in 6th place with 10 matches to play. Next up though is the Champions League. Our opponents Celtic have continued their Scottish Premiership domination. Brendan Rodgers and the board hadn't completely lost the plot. I can't look at the quality of their squad as I forgot to turn on baby mode, scout their team, except for one player. Artem Stepanov was a man I once considered for Gladbach. He looked to have all the tools for an ideal striker, but I never bought him, and he went to Celtic. In the first leg, he'd be a non-factor. Instead, just after the half-hour mark, we went on a counter-attack, where Gray's shot got redirected in by Montoro. Unlike Nico, and especially Esposito, Montoro has performed well, specifically in the Champions League. Following that, both sides should have added to the scoreboard, but didn't, as we ended with the aggregate lead. A positive result in a sea of negativity since we suffered another Bundesliga defeat. This time to last place Heidenheim. With my life miserable outside of the Champions League, why not ruin that as well? Miretti with an afro easily dribbles past my team to score in the 4th minute. I can't stand this. Whenever it looks impossible for our opponents, we make it possible. A woodwork hit would be our sole threat before the break. As the second half went on, I began to lash out at Nico.
Nico Paz, do something, man.
Giovanni Reina probably would have done better, but he continued to be blacklisted from the USA team and we'd release him. I tried to adjust instructions to find a winner, yet Celtic got closer. However, in the 73rd minute, something unlikely happened. Well, it shouldn't be, because Esposito finally found the net. Goals and assists shouldn't be the be-all and end-all on whether a guy is good or not, but when his job is to score, you better get more than 2 in 9 Champions League games. Oh, I guess he's not then. Nico grabbed a third to see us advance past Celtic. We were lucky. Although, out of every German club, we were the only one in the quarterfinals. That includes Bayern, who defeat us in the following weekend. A win before the international break over Kiel had us placed in 7th, 8 points behind a Champions League position. With it improbable to reach that spot with how we've played this season, I decided to focus solely on Europe, where we face Barcelona. Can't be helped when their La Liga game is on a Friday, while the Bundesliga scheduled us on Sunday. So we lost to Frankfurt. Probably would have happened regardless of rotation. Barcelona's lineup is filled with players from the start of our adventure, except Rashford is replaced by Jadon Sancho, who scored in the 10th minute. A shame, since we had a good opportunity at the start. Luck would be on our side though. Robert Lewandowski is the head of youth development for PSV, so their striker is Dani Olmo, and he failed to convert a few opportunities. He's not the only one. Yet, the action soon cooled, leaving us with a slight disadvantage. The second leg is at home, but before that, more drop points in the Bundesliga. The second leg lineup had minimal changes on our end. Barca meanwhile put Balde at left back, Rafinha in for Sancho, and Ferran Torres at striker. Why does Ferran look incredible? He finished as top scorer in La Liga, which is outrageous. Barca unsurprisingly began the match strong, as Gavi hit the post less than 90 seconds in. My plan, like in most games this season, is to play cautiously. That obviously hasn't worked, but against a big team, I wanted to keep the margin close before we crawled out of our shell. Unfortunately, that would be sooner than expected. After the half hour, Ferran would miss a one-on-one, and a couple minutes later, Balde received the ball unchallenged, and since I guess our positioning got messed up by a throw-in, the closest man to him is Esposito, and as you can tell, he's no defender. 2-0 Barca. Going more adventurous led to a mistake which saw Ferran miss another decent chance. If we were to come back, risks are needed, and from the kickoff, we had the power of motivation. My team talk hyped up the boys as they went down and scored immediately. Montoro continued his impressive campaign, but can we find a second? Before that, we need to make sure we prevent any goals, and luckily, Sancho helped. 20 minutes to go, still down on 1 on aggregate. Throw into Esposito, cross in. Archie Gray with a wonder strike! And we'd get a big chance to win it. But Garcia made a massive save as this went to extra time. In the 100th minute, we had a free kick. Nico Paz, that was a good opportunity. But he gets it again and Cooley finishes it. We're in the aggregate lead, let's go. Sadly, Barca equalized less than 3 minutes later. Our Georgian left back I bought last season was marking Lamine. Because for some reason, when the pass to Sancho got made, he decided, yeah, let's act like I'm a 3-year-old and join everyone chasing the ball. Are you stupid? Why did you leave him? Why? The second half of extra time saw nothing, so penalties it is. Exiting the huddle, we apparently missed our first penalty. Why did I skip the first penalty? So, okay, Dix, I guess, missed the first pen. Brilliant. Rafinha stepping up. He's played the whole game injured, basically, and he scores. Saman doesn't even try to dive. Nico Paz scores. I mean, that missed pen killed any nerves I have now because it feels like we started with a handicap. Lamine Yamal, though. does Lamine Yamal brilliance, like Messi. Hopefully that doesn't impact Seaman's psyche there. Esposito, though, has to score this pen. He does. Alright, Subarsi, third penalty taker. Is he good at pens? I mean, he just shoots in the middle, so hard to say. Nathan the Cat, fourth up. Sends the keeper the other way. Save it here, Seaman, and we're feeling good. Jadon Sancho. They keep shooting in the middle! Seaman, how many times are you going to get tricked? Now it's going to be fifth pen. Do you stay in the middle or do you dive? Oh my days. Rocco writes to keep us alive. And it doesn't. Fucking shit season this was. My word. Oh my gosh. Go toe-to-toe with Barcelona. Score 3 unanswered. Only for our fucking Georgian dumbass to let Lamine Yamal, all people, get wide open. Oh, I hate this team, man. This team sucks. Even when they do great things, they still lose. Bloody hell, man. We can't win penalty shootouts. Have I won a penalty shootout in FM? I don't think so. I think I've had 3 and I've lost all 3. With all that yelling in front of the press, all they took away from it is that I dislike Lamine Yamal? I don't think I said that. With 5 games to go and us in 9th, 9 points behind 4th, the Champions League is out of the question for next season. And so could European football. Despite my comments seconds ago, guys like Nico, Reitz, and Montoro stepped up for the next 3 games. All wins, which included Stuttgart. Unfortunately, we were in 8th place when we visited Leipzig on the penultimate match day. And in spite of some good chances, we forgot how to defend after 3 magical matches. A loss to them meant our only chance at Europe is a Dortmund loss, and hope no underdog wins the DFB Pokal. We did defeat Wolfsburg, again with goals from Nico and Reitz, but Dortmund drew as we finished disgracefully in 8th. Outside of almost upsetting Barcelona, this season couldn't have gone worse. Players with high expectations didn't deliver, the defense was leakier than Garnacho's brother, and I can't create a consistent tactic. Although, I might as well do one more season since I have Nico again. And his end of season form may be not sour on him. Unlike Esposito. I have to deal with this fraud for another year? The transfer of Archie Gray hasn't been ideal. With his price now totaled to 58 million euros, his performances on the pitch lacked influence. That was until the Barcelona goal. Still, we missed out on European football and needed to shake up the lineup. Something we couldn't do because of 3 loans that turned into mandatory buys, including that fraud Esposito. Despite no continental competition, I haven't heard a whisper of discontent. So I decided to plan the season with the same squad and change up the tactic. To fix their defensive frailties, the deep line playmaker changed to a halfback. And the man who took that role is the free transfer of Trevor Chalobah. In possession, he'll drop to make a back 3 to minimize the holes in our defense. That does leave a gap in this area, so I decided to test out the playmaking fullback role with Archie Gray. That led to Joe Scally being sold to Saudi Arabia. Gray will dictate the play, but he can also run forward and combine with our right wide forward, Alvaro Montoro, or transfer from Stuttgart, Mika Fest. We'll keep one of the attacking midfielders with Nico Pass as the advanced playmaker. The 2 central midfielders remain as well, with a wide central midfielder stationed by the constantly improving Kenneth Eichhorn, and a channel midfielder filled by Rocco Reitz because Nathan the Cat got sold to Liverpool. He wanted to go there, and I wanted no drama. Finally, the left back will be allowed to roam higher as he's the only option on that side. This is how the system looks defensively, and if you want to try out the tactic, the instructions are shown on the screen. With a slightly new system, we began the campaign with 4 victories. Some matches were easier than others, but overall, no complaints. However, the first real challenge arrived with Borussia Dortmund. What a weird club they've been since I arrived in Germany. 7th, 12th, and 7th is horrendous, yet their board seems relaxed, as Oliver Glasner remains in charge. They have good players like Justin Lerma and Daniel Svensson. Their number 9 still is Girassi, and the 33-year-old opened the affair in the most ridiculous circumstances.
What?
At least Girassi felt bad and pushed our player in the box, which allowed us to equalize. 5 minutes into the second half, A simple low cross from Ulrich found Nico Pass to give us a deserved lead. Yet, the threat of Guirassy remained as he nearly equalized at the hour mark. Soon later, Cooley decides to ignore his team's defensive line and gets churned by Guirassy as Dortmund equalize. It seemed that our defense began to show Season 3 form. Let me introduce you to Enzo Machado, an 18-year-old striker transferred from Newell Old Boys. He's meant to be Esposito's backup, but he actually does his job. In the 90th minute, he receives it at the top of the box, cuts inside on his left to shake off 2 defenders, and tucks it home. A massive victory, and now I'm intrigued by him. Because of Machado's strike, we had a perfect start, unlike Bayern, who lost to Wolfsburg. Without midweek European matches, this schedule gives us the best opportunity to win the Bundesliga, a title not won by the club since 1977. Maybe I'm a bit too ambitious, especially with what happened in Leverkusen. Robert Andrich's red card prior to halftime gave us the perfect opportunity to go 6-0. Instead, in the 80th minute, a simple long ball caught our defenders off guard as Gassama, great name, scored his first and only ever goal for Leverkusen to stun us. Not the result you want before you play Bayern. Bayern are odd. Not like Dortmund, they still consistently win the Bundesliga, but outside of that, they don't seem super. Since I've arrived, they won 1 DFB Pokal, the furthest they've gotten in the Champions League is the quarterfinals, and they can't keep a manager. Their coach at the start, Ronnie Falali, left weeks before the 2027-28 campaign. In response, the Bayern board decided to bring back Thomas Tuchel. Not even a year later, he returns to Chelsea, and Bayern again brings back a former manager. This time, Niko Kovac? No, Hansi Flick. They still have Old Man Harry, Michael Olise, Kimmich, and 3/4 of their defense, although some prominent names are gone and replaced by lesser players. At least, I thought they were, as Malik Tillman opened up the encounter. Other attackers include Raul Moro, Oscar Bob, and Gabri Martinez, who doubled the lead late. Gray losing the ball didn't help with that. A late Cooley header didn't change the fact that we lost consecutive fixtures. Following, thanks to a Fabian Rieder free kick, we'd go 3 winless, falling 5 points behind Bayern. A couple 2-0 victories followed, as Nico Pass and Archie Gray showcased themselves. But to begin November, a 1-0 loss to Mainz. Luckily for us, Bayern dropped points as well, as the gap closed to 3. Despite that previous result, the team began to get accustomed to the tactic and displayed its true potential versus Hertha Berlin. Both Esposito and Machado weren't playing like true number 9s. I have to commit to one, so I used their Argentinian right angle triangle, and if my math theory is correct, if Nico Pass creates 6 key passes in which 2 become assists, we get A equals 6.2. Then, if we have Machado score a first career hat-trick and add the percentage of usefulness of Montoro for this matchup, which is 25%, we get B equals 3.25. Take each to the power of 2, add them together, and square root that number, and C equals 7. 7-0. Borussia Monchengladbach. I won't bless you with further Chroo maths, but take that idea to an away trip to Hamburg, and you receive a 5-0 lead. A few miscalculations did lead to a pair conceded. Regardless, a massive victory, and 1 point behind Bayern. After avoiding embarrassment in the DFB Pokal for once, December continued the Argentine love. Nico and Machado continued to contribute in consecutive 2-0 victories against 3rd place Werder Bremen and 4th place Stuttgart. Then, to conclude 2029, Freiburg would understand the true power of Rocky II with a Rocco Reitz brace. In those 3 match days, Bayern lost to both Bremen and Stuttgart, placing us 5 points above them. There is a long way to go, but Hansi Flick's return to Bavaria hasn't gone well in the Bundesliga, nor the Champions League. It didn't even matter that Cooley fractured his ribs, as both Beraldo, who arrived on a free, and Vuskovic, who's joining on a permanent next season, solidified the fort. Of course, we'd lose our New Year's opener. A mixture of bad luck and dumbass defending. We quickly put that behind us with a calm victory over Hannover. Then, facing Leipzig, deadlocked at 0-0, I decided to sub on Esposito, and near the end, Leipzig's keeper makes a horrendous judgment on a loose ball as Esposito beats him and wins us the match. Unfortunately, Esposito got a little cocky afterwards and said, "Hey, I think I should play more. What's up with that?" Again, I'm not here to cause problems, so he's back to the starter role, where he doesn't do much against Union Berlin despite our 3-0 triumph. Against Wolfsburg though, he does score a hat trick. Following a tight DFB Pokal encounter with Bochum, whom we get revenge over, we face Borussia Dortmund again. They're struggling out here in 8th, while we remain top of the Bundesliga thanks to Bayern's late January results. This goes similarly to the previous one. Guirassy scores, Dortmund finds a dumb goal, and the match is level at 2 apiece. The ending had similarities. Even later than last time, we won the ball where Fest receives it in the box, but he stopped. 6 victories was not meant to be. Thankfully, Leverkusen at home would be a breeze. In addition, Bayern lost to Dortmund on the same match day, which meant we were 5 points ahead of them on the day we faced off. Bayern had Atletico Madrid in the round of 16 after our encounter, the club who eliminated them last season. I'm sure a lot went through Hansi Flick's head, as he knew that if Bayern aren't Bundesliga champions, then they aren't really Bayern Munich. Then again, if they're eliminated by the same team in the Champions League, despite not managing then, it won't be a good look on him. So he took the risk of rotating the majority of his 11 with several starters not included on the bench. However, he received a gift in the 20th minute with our Georgian left back's annual dumb mistake. He doesn't get everything on a tackle and thinks what would happen to him if his country took these 4 crosses out of their flag. Well, he becomes a Brexit geezer and gets sent off. Rotated or not, 10 men against Bayern is awful. It sucks since 6 minutes in, we nearly scored. Now we have to defend with this shape and hope we can maintain the point gap. Not long after Ulrich subbed in, we were on the attack and laid the ball off to Archie Gray. Oh! Take a bow, Archie. This man loves a big game goal. Minutes later, Esposito did the impossible. Okay, that would have been sick. After Gray's strike, I decided to change Ulrich from a wingback to a fullback, but that wouldn't stop him from running forward. He wins possession and later receives it again, where he slices and dices 2 defenders and slots it near post for a 2-0 lead. Bayern weren't in this whatsoever. Ulrich off the bench gets man of the match, and Archie Gray's banger will be remembered for a while. I have to sympathize with Hansi Flick. However, if you're gonna go 8 points behind in the Bundesliga, you have to defeat Atletico Madrid. They drew leg 1, and in leg 2, Atleti's Pablo Barrios got sent off in the 5th minute. Even with the advantage, Hansi can't deal with 10 men, as they'd be pushed to penalties and lose. It wasn't all good vibes at Gladbach. Our supposed youth academy prodigy Moya became irate for his lack of starts. Yeah, the kid can still improve a lot, but I didn't need this attitude. You're fast, but you don't have the goal threat to play as a wide forward. You can pass, but your composure, concentration, and decision making is below par to the starter at camp. Oh, one of the central midfield positions? Your work rate and teamwork could be better, and your off the ball ability is crap. So Hoffenheim offered a deal worth up to 66 million euros, where he scored and assisted twice on his debut. He'd do a lot better with Hoffenheim than with us. Oh well, I purchased a Brazilian cam named Miguel Caldas, who is much better mentally and is happy to be an impact sub. Gunnar update? We released him because he wanted too much money and is at Manchester United. Dix update? He wanted to be sold in January, and so he was. Gio Reyna balling out in the championship with Southampton. Hackman sold to Middlesbrough where he actually did well. In our 3 matches before the international break, we defeat Augsburg thanks to Machado and make Moya cry in his Gladbach return. He was terrible. Unfortunately, we did draw Dusseldorf. At least the large advantage in the table can allow us some slip-ups, especially when Bayern dropped further behind with consecutive draws. 7 to play, and we're 10 points up on Bayern. And unlike them, the DFB Pokal is in our sights. We had to face Mainz in April, but after the March international break, we first faced them in the Bundesliga, where 2 90th minute goals secured us a 4-2 victory. Hertha Berlin and Hamburg before the semi-final also resulted in wins. The DFB Pokal has given me problems throughout the years, but that wouldn't be the case here. Mainz were destroyed 3-0. Through this run, Nico Pass continued to get goals and assists, which would eventually see him have double digits in both categories. The midfield duo of Eichhorn and Reitz kept finding space forward to contribute. Archie Gray, meanwhile, at worst, played well, as the shift to playmaking right back proved to be the best decision of his career. At Bremen on matchday 31, we remained 10 points clear of Bayern, with a chance to clinch the Bundesliga. Unfortunately, we could only draw. But Bayern drew Hamburg, which meant for the first time since 1977, Borussia Monchengladbach have won the Bundesliga. While it could have been better to clinch it by winning, the feat still remains incredible. Stuttgart provided the guard of honor as we'd celebrate history in front of our fans. The last 2 games would be in our favor too, as after that loss to Frankfurt in January, we went 19 undefeated with only 3 draws. An incredible run that saw me win both Bundesliga Manager of the Year awards, Machado with a Newcomer award. Our entire back line were listed into the Team of the Year with only 26 goals conceded. Trevor Chalobah and Nico Pass also joined the 11. Finally, Archie Gray earned both Bundesliga Player of the Year awards. What a season. But, like previous non-Bayern Bundesliga winners like Leverkusen and Dortmund, can we match them by winning a double? That answer wouldn't take long to get to because Nico Pass was too eager with goals in the 1st and 12th minute. It became 3-0 by halftime, and Stuttgart's hopes were dashed with a 70th minute red card. It's not as long of a gap as the Bundesliga, but it's their first DFB Pokal since 1995. A perfect way to cap off Marco Chrose's career at Borussia Monchengladbach.